Hi, I'm Alison Warner, founder of Evolve and Grow and author of Build and Grow. Welcome to the Evolve and Grow podcast show, where I share lots of useful tips and advice to tradespeople who are looking to move off the tools and grow a really successful business. So I'm delighted to be joined today by John Newland-Jenner, who's founder and director of J&J Building Solutions. The business is based in London and specialises in extensions, refurbishments and loft conversions. I've invited John on to the show today to talk about the challenges that builders often face in scaling their business and how he personally is starting to lay the foundations to scale his. Because I think it's so much more powerful to hear from somebody who's actually doing this rather than myself. Just a bit of background on John. After leaving school, he joined the family business with his dad and brother, and then went on to join Taylor Wimpey and worked his way up to becoming a site manager. And this gave him the ideal platform to launch his own business in 2009. In 2017, they were highly commended at the LABC Building Excellence Awards in the category of Best Extension or Alteration to an Existing Home. So welcome, John. Great to have you on the show.
Oh, thank you so much for having me.
So this is one of the most common challenges that people come to us, the question being, how do I grow? But before we get into that and to kick off, perhaps you can just share with us what inspired you to start your own business?
Oh, well, as a kid, I always wanted to have my own building business purely because I aspired to be like my dad and brother. They both are in the industry and had small building companies. But the trigger that pushed me into taking the leap of faith was my wife falling pregnant with our first daughter.
Right.
Yeah, so my wife worked in the city, and at the time she earned a considerable amount more than me. And we decided that once my daughter was born, my wife would stay home and look after her full time. So as you can imagine, the need to support the family and create a good life for us all gave me all the ambition and drive I needed to start the company.
Yeah, brilliant. And it can be very challenging, can't it, for small business building companies to grow. In your opinion, why do you think this is?
I think it's a combination of things, really. It comes down to knowledge, resources, and most importantly, I think mindset. I mean, generally, tradesmen didn't go to university to study business. So what tends to happen is the company falls out of balance. Because I mean, I would get in so high demand because of the quality of work we did and the relationships we build with our clients. But to try and replicate that on a larger scale used to just feel impossible because I didn't feel that I could be everywhere at once. And I tried many times to grow the business, and I would get incredibly stressed out about all the information and the internal workings of every project. And then the quality would drop or things would get missed or done to a lesser standard. And this would inevitably cause my clients to be unhappy, which would lead me to more stress and anxiety. And in the end, I just found myself downscaling again to cope with the stress. And to be honest, it's really embarrassing now because my mindset's totally different. But I used to convince myself that big companies couldn't keep to the same level of standards. And if the bigger you got, your outgoings and wages would be so much bigger. So the profit margin wouldn't be that much different in comparison to the stress they must be under. And I used to convince myself that keeping it small was better quality, less stress and better service, to be honest. But the fact is, and the truth is, and this is going to sound fluffy, definitely to my peers in my industry, but with the right knowledge and resources and mindset, the only restriction on the growth of your business is the one you set in your own mind. Because with the right procedures and systems and mindset, there's nothing to hold you back, really.
It's interesting because that actually reminds me of something somebody once said to me, that the only thing that will get in your way is you. And it is really true, isn't it? It's much easier to control something when it's small, but it's that challenge of how do you duplicate you? How do you grow a business but still maintain those standards that clearly are very high to you? How do you replicate yourself? And really the only way to do it, as you say, is by having the right systems and processes in place. So what do you think has been the most challenging thing?
Oh, that's a tough question. For me personally, or for the business?
I would say both.
Well, the most challenging thing for the business is finding the right people to employ, in my opinion, because to find highly skilled tradesmen that understand client ethics, customer care, is such a challenge. And on large construction sites in general, they're male dominated. So it's full of banter, one-upmanship, there's offensive language, generally really offensive views as well. And it all goes unchallenged. So if you take those same people that have been in the game for years and then put them in someone's garden to build an extension, it's easy for them to forget that not only are they in someone's home, but sometimes a stud partition away from the client and their family. So, I mean, we're far from perfecting this element, but by putting the right systems in place and having good communication with our clients, and also having a proper recruitment process when hiring, rather than just using someone's mate's brother who you've been told a great chippy and just what we call reaction hiring, you do alleviate the issue massively.
Yeah, it comes down to that process, doesn't it? And I think you're right. One of the biggest challenges, I always say that to clients, the biggest challenges will be with the people, finding good people and building a team. But so much of it is down to the expectation that you set from day one. And it's a lot easier if you understand what it is you're looking for and you understand the standard that you want them to perform against, then you've got a much better chance, I guess, of building a strong team. So what about the challenge for you personally as the business owner?
For me personally, it was letting go of responsibility and delegating important tasks to others, because as your business grows, and this is going to sound such a cliche, but as it grows, it's like your baby, and you don't think anyone's going to be as effective as you or as good as you because they don't have the same care for it that you do. But the truth is that once given responsibility, people thrive, and once you let them think for themselves, they enjoy their work more. And there's tons of skilled people out there with, much more skilled than me, and with different strengths and weaknesses. And I've learned that if you harness someone's strengths and combine that with showing how much they're valued in your business, you then create someone who's not only enjoying their work, but someone who's loyal. And then they create great work. And then this then allows me to run the business and concentrate on it growing.
It sounds so simple, and you're absolutely right. It's one of the most challenging things, though, isn't it? There's so much psychology involved in leading a team. Some days you have to be the disciplinarian, other days you have to be somebody who's inspiring them. Some days maybe it's more of a counselling, a listening ear. You have all these different hats to put on to get the best out of people, and there's no one size fits all because everybody's different. So, it's interesting. I think
it's definitely
Richard
challenging.
Branson. Yeah, I think Richard Branson, didn't he? He said that he grows his businesses by understanding the skills that he needs in the business that he isn't the best at, and then he just gets the hell out of the way and lets it grow. So interesting. So you've recently completed one of our 6-month Build and Grow programs. What has been your biggest learning as a result of going through that?
Oh, well, as you know, we've implemented so much in the last 6 months, but to round it up as a whole, it'd probably have to be running the business as a director. I mean, before we met, I had no real visibility on finances, or I didn't have a marketing strategy or a financial forecast in place, or even a set plan and how we were going to get there. And now we've got all of those things and clear goals and the clarity on how to get there. That's the biggest thing I've taken from it, because it then allows me to have focus and belief in all of the other things that you helped me with to bring the company forward, really.
I often liken it to getting in a car and going on a journey, and if you don't know where that end destination is and you haven't got the map or the sat nav to direct you and guide you and let you know if you're on track, then it's really difficult. You could be getting in the car and going anywhere, couldn't you? You could end up in France, or you could end up in Scotland. And it's all about being in the driving seat and having that end destination. So just talk to us a little bit more, John, about the particular steps that you've taken to build the foundation, so to speak, which now are enabling you to grow.
Well, if you told this, but if you told me 6 months ago that I'd be doing what I'm doing now, I wouldn't believe you. We've employed an office manager, we've introduced new accounting software to help us track profitability, we've implemented this really good Gantt chart software. So the Gantt chart software has been a game changer for us because we schedule our jobs and we create this Gantt chart for our clients. The clients have live logins. So once I go to site at the same time every week, I update the logins and update all of the percentages of each section of the job. And as soon as I've pressed that on my phone or tablet, or if I get home and do it on my desktop, it's automatic, and the client can be, if they've moved out while we're doing the project or they're just at work, they can check in and see the progress. And then that progress is linked to our sort of unique sort of payment schedule that we do. So the client can see that we're on track. We said we were where we were going to be. Therefore, the next stage payment is fine to pay. And if it's not, then we can rejig the payments or whatever else. But it's a good tool to keep us on track and keep us focused too, because all of my staff have also got their own different login, but they've got their own login and they can see what they've got to achieve by the end of each week and who's coming in behind them. So it's just a great tool for everybody to achieve, and also for total transparency between the business and the client.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because that is one of the key things often we discover when a new building company comes on, is that jobs have been forecasted perhaps, but not really tracked in terms of targets of where a certain project should be at different stages of the project. And then often what happens, isn't it, is that it runs over and they end up spending perhaps 20 or 30% more on labour because of that. And intuitively, they kind of have this understanding that that's what's happened, but they actually haven't got anything written down to confirm that or show them actually the true cost of it.
Yeah, agreed. The other thing that we've been focusing on as well is our customers and planning the customer journey. So from the first impression of us when they meet us to implementing new information packs for them with FAQs and explaining different stages of the project in detail and what to expect. We now set up WhatsApp groups, so the client has direct access to me personally. So at any time they can contact me if they've got any concerns. We've always done weekly meetings, but now it's at a set time and it's guaranteed every week at the same time, and it's more structured. So we do these meetings and debrief on how we've done that week. We track progress, but it's also a real good opportunity, that face to face with the client and me to them to voice any concerns or issues or problems they might be having, so they can be dealt with immediately if there are any, and then we move forward. And it just gives a really smooth, it can be stressful having people working in your house. We're in your home and we're seeing you at your best and worst from 7:30 a.m. till 5 p.m. So to have these things in place really helps with the process.
And what sort of feedback have you had from clients on these sorts of changes that you've put in place?
Great feedback, really. I mean, most people are quite, they're quite shocked that it's there in the first place. It's quite new to them, and then they get into it and start really getting. And it also helps that they get really passionate about it, and they can see where their job's going and what's next, and they're excited about the next element, which is also quite powerful in itself. But yeah, there's so much to the customer journey. I mean, even once you finish the job, it's not just about our clients. Ain't just our clients for the time we're with them. We want our clients to be our clients for life. I mean, we build up such strong relationships with them because we're with them for so long, that when you finish the job, you end up still having that aftercare going forward. So we give our 3-month retention, and we go and fix any movement cracks and snags and things. And we obviously give our warranties, but it's beyond that. It's, picking up the phone and asking a question about that. They might be thinking about something new they want to do and they just want a bit of advice, or a friendly ear on something they want to change and a bit of advice. And that's what I think is important with the customers.
Totally. In any situation, actually, it's communication and responsiveness, isn't it? It's that knowing that somebody's at the end of the phone and is going to either answer the phone or get back to you really promptly. That in itself reduces so much stress as a client. So it makes a lot of sense, definitely. What do you think has made the biggest difference?
Oh, this one's an easy one for me. I mean, the biggest shift in the company is when I employed our office manager, Alison. So we're so organised now. We've got linked computers and diaries. Every project's filled with information from the first email to the sign-off certificates. There's set reminders and follow-ups for clients, architects, and even our staff. And I think since employing her, we come across so much more professional because, I used to take calls from prospective clients in my van, which isn't, it's not the end of the world, but now they're getting to speak to our office manager who logs it in the diary, tells them when I'm going to be getting back to them. She can even, log meetings into my diary when talking to them. So it's just such a different feel from the first moment they meet us. And I used to say, how could I afford office staff? I mean, it's an overhead that I've not costed for in my quotes or my estimates. How can I afford it? But it goes back to mindset again and implementing people's strengths, because Ali, I mean, she's undoubtedly exceptional at her job and it comes naturally to her, and what she's implementing is truly amazing. But also, all of those hours upon hours that I used to spend doing what she's now doing at a much better level, I'm now spending that time doing what I do best and improving the company and winning more projects and strategizing on how to expand. I mean, it's just the best thing we've ever done.
Yeah, win-win for both sides.
Yeah, definitely.
And what's enabled you to come off the tools?
Letting go, I suppose, and delegating responsibility. I mean, I'm not going to lie, I miss it sometimes. I love creating things and especially creating finishes. I don't miss carrying sand for a building in the rain as much. But yeah, I used to get a real buzz from finishing a kitchen or a bathroom or an extension, and the client would come in and they'd be so happy with, it's their new space. But although I got such a buzz from that, there's no comparison to the buzz I get in the business growing and seeing things working and all the strategies we put in place working and people, getting a great service. You can't compete with that. It's great.
Yeah, no, it must be a real buzz. So obviously at the moment we're all in lockdown due to COVID-19. How have you adapted your ways of working to cope with this?
I mean, it's a torrid time, isn't it? I mean, but you've got to try and put a positive spin on things. And the first thing we did was it forced us to stop, basically. So because we were forced to stop, it made us work on our back office. So straight away we did some training on Zoom and how to share screens. And then once we put our presentations together, we started contacting architects and interior designers. And we've had some real positive meetings where, we got to know each other's companies and how we can help each other for when we get back to normal. We've won a couple of jobs since via Zoom meetings where we've managed to, clients have paid deposits and using new, I haven't mentioned it, but another thing we've implemented is electronic signature software. So we didn't need it before, but now we send our all of our T's and C's and contracts, and they can sign them electronically. And what I think is really positive from this as well is even when we go back to normal, I still will do face-to-face meetings, of course, but there's probably 3 or 4 meetings on a run up to a big build, and some of them can now be done via Zoom. I mean, normally clients ask me to come at 8 o'clock at night after their kids are down so they can really concentrate. Whereas now, they can flip open their laptop and we can have a really, we can share screens, have a great meeting, and even sign any documents while we're at it. It's a total game changer, really.
I think it's been such an interesting time, and a lot of good things will come out of it. And one is that it's forced us to really embrace the technology that's out there and work in a much more efficient way. And you're obviously testament to that. But it also goes back to what you were saying earlier, John, around mindset, because there'll be lots of people out there that haven't taken action, that have been almost like a rabbit in headlights with the change. But, you embraced it and you looked for the positives and you went, right, how am I going to adapt to this? How am I going to make the most of it? And I think those are the businesses that will survive. It's very much about the survival of the most adaptable, not the fittest, as I think Darwin said. So how have you kept positive during this time?
I mean, I'm extremely lucky. I've got such a loving family, my wife and kids, and although we've all been locked down together and it has its challenging times, it's easy to keep positive when you've got such a tight family unit. But on top of that, I listen to a lot of Tony Robbins, motivational podcasts, and I read a lot of his books. And I honestly believe that if you look hard enough, you can find opportunities in the bleakest of times.
Yeah, absolutely.
And one of my favourite Robbins quotes is, "You have to stand guard at the door of negativity," because whether it's in your own program psyche telling you that something's impossible or too risky, or the majority of people just being negative without realising they're negative, telling you the dangers and flaws in your plans and to be careful and don't do that. That's dangerous. And, all of that negativity, can, if you hang around with negative people, you become negative. So I try and spend as much time as I can with positive people, and positivity is infectious. And the more you surround yourself with that and read positive things and listen to positive podcasts, I think it helps you stay focused.
Absolutely. And it's reminding me actually of when I started my business at the height of the recession 10 years ago. And a lot of people around me were saying, oh, it's very risky, you're brave, and comments like this. And then I came across my first mentor, and I remember him saying that you're a product of the 5 people that you spend the most time with. And that really resonated. And it was why I then joined a mastermind group and chose who I was listening to, because it goes back to that mindset thing. If it puts you in a positive mindset, then positive behaviors then follow. So it makes a lot of sense. And so finally, what advice would you give to any builder who's looking to grow their business?
I mean, everything we've touched on in this chat, a lot of it's important, but I think the main thing is you need to have a specific goal, not a vague goal like saying, I want to grow my business. You need a solid goal with targets and outcomes, and then just work as hard as you can to get that outcome and don't lose focus on it. And if it doesn't work, which it generally doesn't the first time round, find another way. And then if it doesn't work again, find another way, and just keep doing that over and over as many times as necessary until you achieve it. And that might sound a bit motivational speaky, but to be honest, it's true. It's the only way. It's
like, know what you want and go for it. Absolutely. And recognize it won't necessarily be a smooth path, but you'll get there in the end. So brilliant. Well, thank you so much, John, for not only coming on the show today and sharing your experience, but also for being a client. It's been an absolute privilege to work with you. And I find you very inspirational from the action that you take and how you approach things. So it's been fantastic advice for any business owner in construction that's ambitious and is looking to grow. And I can't wait to see where your company goes in the future. Thank you.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. Thanks a lot.
I really hope you've enjoyed today's podcast. Please do share on social media. And if you'd like to learn more, head over to my website, www.evolveandgrowcoaching.com, where you'll find more details and also my book, Build and Grow, which is available on Amazon. Finally, you can also support the show by writing a review and subscribing on iTunes.